Here, make sure there we go. Now we're recording. Uh, Welcome to session number 29 of Genesis in Depth. I'm Dr. John McMath, joined here by my friends in Italy and the Philippines. And we've been studying here since the days of COVID, way back in 2020. I think we started out. So we're into our fifth year of studying together. And this is great fun. We have recordings of all of those sessions and all of the different classes that we've done uh, on YouTube and Facebook. And we know that there are many who join there. We always appreciate comments. What can we do better? What could we do worse? I don't know if there are any of those, but let us know. And we'll be happy to communicate. Okay, we are in Genesis chapter 34. This is the sojourn of Jacob in Shechem. Let's begin the share. Let's see if I can make this happen. There we go. This is the one I want. Okay, here we have it. Now the magic is going to happen. There it is. This photograph is actually taken from an airplane. I wasn't flying in Israel that day, so I actually had to purchase this photograph. This is an airplane over Mount Gerizim, looking down toward the modern Arab city of Shechem. There in the foreground is the Samaritan temple on top of Mount Gerizim. The high spot in the upper right-hand corner of this photo is Mount Gerizim, or not Gerizim, but Ebal. Ebal is the bald mountain, and Gerizim has trees on it. On Mount Ebal is an altar that many scholars believe is the altar that Joshua built at Shechem. And you might be wondering, why did Joshua build an altar in Shechem rather than in Jerusalem? And that's a long story, but part of that story is here in chapter 34 of the book of Genesis. Jacob and his family have met Esau. Esau has gone his own way. Jacob is going his own way, and we see at the end of chapter 33, beginning at verse 18, this sets the stage for what we're seeing here. And Jacob came safely to the city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan, on his way from Paddan Aram, and he camped before the city. Okay, so Jacob is still doing the whole Bedouin lifestyle, sheep and goats and camels and servants and whatnot. Uh, the camels carry all the equipment, or the donkeys do, and they can set up camp in a matter of an hour or so. Set up all the tents and put up places for the sheep and send the shepherds out into the surrounding territory. There's a lot of good pasture land surrounding Shechem, and so it's obviously a very good place for sheep and goats, and the camels will have no problem. There's also significant water at Shechem. There is a place in modern Shechem that it actually a Greek Orthodox church built over the top of what is called Jacob's Well. And when you go to Israel, it's possible, used to be possible, to stop in Shechem and visit Jacob's Well. It has never been recommended to actually drink the water from Jacob's Well, but I know people do. So Jacob came to Shechem. From the sons of Hamor, Shechem's father, he bought for 100 pieces of money the piece of land on which he had pitched his tent. And there he erected an altar and called it El Elohe Israel. Okay, um, some formalities there. It's significant that Jacob bought a piece of property in the same way that Abraham bought a piece of property in Hebron. Jacob also bought a piece of property near Shechem. And this is going to end up being the only piece of property that Jacob actually owns in the promised land, apart from eventually his tomb there in Hebron. Uh, and he erected an altar there. The erecting of an altar and the performance of the sacrificial office for his community is a part of the worship of this time. We always think of worship as uh, singing with guitars in the background, but it really isn't. Worship is an act of submission to God. And at this point, we see this building of an altar out of uncut stones, the sacrifice of an animal, as a dedication of Jacob to the service of God himself. Jacob was never a particularly devout man. He was. There are a lot of things about Jacob not to like, but he keeps coming back to God. So here he is, and he's set this place up, and he's actually purchased the land, so he's intending to stay near Shechem for a good length of time, which actually takes us on into chapter 34. Now, Dinah, you remember Dinah, the only daughter in this household full of boys. Dinah, the daughter of Leah, because half of the boys in Jacob's family were the sons of Leah, and Dinah was also the daughter of Leah. They were brothers and sisters, not half brother sister, but brothers and sisters. And this young girl growing up in the midst of this very male encampment would have been kind of a pet. She almost certainly would have been spoiled. All these boys looking to protect her, to impress her, to make her happy, keep her happy, do whatever. And Dinah pretty much, I'm quite sure, got to do whatever she wanted and got to have whatever she wanted because she's the only girl, and it just works that way. Human nature doesn't change from generation to generation very much. So Dinah, daughter of Leah, whom she had borne to Jacob, went out to see the women of the land. Okay, so she went out on a walk. There's nothing too terribly interesting about that, except for the fact that this is in pretty well unknown territory. They've just set up camp. They've just begun operations there. And Dinah doesn't know what's up or what's down. She doesn't know the culture of the area. And instead of being cautious and asking for a couple of her brothers to come along for the walk, she just took off walking. And Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hivite, the prince of the land, saw her. And without hesitation, the Hebrew here lacks a conjunction. which might slow the narrative down just a bit. He saw her, he seized her, and lay with her, and humiliated her. Um, Now that last bit is uh, significant because of the fact that uh, rape is a terrible thing, but it is never about giving or receiving sexual pleasure. It is always an act of power, of aggression, and usually of humiliation. Uh, when a man who overpowers a young girl for his own uh, pleasure, the pleasure of aggression, the pleasure of power, uh, the act is always humiliating. The young lady in this case was uh, utterly disgusted with what happened. This was not something she was seeking, uh, and she probably knew better from her culture uh, than uh, than to engage in an act like this um, outside of a certifiable marriage of some kind. Now, agreed that her parents uh, were married in a very odd way. Nevertheless, there should be something. So this is disgraceful. Dinah shouldn't have gone by herself. The men of Shechem were just plain awful. The guilty party in this thing was the son of the king of Shechem. Now, when we think of kings and so forth in the ancient world, think more warlord. The leader of the community at Shechem would probably be the patriarch, the eldest male in the community, and often the father, grandfather, and or great grandfather of most of the men in the city. So it's very much a family thing, and not political, except in the on the fringes. So Hamor is the father of Shechem. Shechem is the prince of the place. He's son of Hamor. Hamor is the prince of the place, and the boy Shechem would eventually ascend to that spot. Uh, Afterwards, so he humiliated her. And 3, verse 3 of 34, his soul was drawn to Dinah, the daughter of Jacob. He loved the young woman and spoke tenderly to her. After his disgusting act, he tried to convince her that he was actually a nice guy. Now, Dinah knew otherwise. Dinah had at least enough common sense to know that this was a really bad thing that Shechem had done, and this was not an act of love. This was not an act of tenderness. This was aggression. So this was not a good thing. Afterwards, uh, in the in Shechem's afterglow, I suppose, he decided he wanted to marry the girl. So Shechem spoke to his father, Hamor, uh, going through channels at last, saying, "Get me this girl for my wife." Gives Dad some orders. Presumably, uh, Dinah would be added to the harem of young Shechem. Um, we don't know how many other women he has at this point. So this is not a good thing. There isn't any of this that uh, should make us happy at all. And so he uh, apparently took Dinah into the town of Shechem and introduced her to his father and said, "Arrange a marriage for me with this girl, would you please?" Okay, and from that point, Dinah was held captive kind of kidnapped uh, in the city of Shechem. This is what is in the Arab world called marriage by rape. Uh, the this frankly this is still common in the Arab world. The events of the last year and a half in Israel around the Gaza Strip ought to eliminate any sense of the Hamas in Gaza and their followers as being decent human beings. They this was done to their hostages before they killed them. This is part of the destructive element of the nomadic lifestyle, and it isn't true everywhere. There are some in this life that actually are decent people, but these folks definitely are not. And we're going to see the judgment of God on the people of Shechem. So Hamor, the father of Shechem, went out to Jacob to speak with him. Oh, okay. But by this time, of course, uh, Jacob had heard. Okay, this is verse 5. Now, Jacob heard that he, Shechem, had defiled his daughter Dinah. The term defiled there, very strong term. This is, again, it relates to the disgusting act. It relates to the aggression. Okay, Jacob had heard that he had defiled his daughter Dinah, but his sons were with his livestock in the field. So Jacob held his peace until they came. And Hamor, father of Shechem, went out to Jacob to speak with him, and the sons of Jacob had come in from the field as soon as they heard of it. And the men were indignant. The term that ESV uses to translate this word. The Hebrew word there is a somewhat rare word. Sometimes it's used of God, but when we see this word used of human subjects, it's normally something like outrage or disgust. They are uh, they are over the top, really, truly, genuinely angry. And this is a sort of thing that usually in the ancient world would lead to war. Uh, that's that kind of a word. So they were very angry because he had done an outrageous thing in Israel by lying with Jacob's daughter. Such a thing must not be done. Okay. It's sometimes I look at a thing like this, such a thing must not be done. It means this is a part of this is a taboo. It's the kind of thing that everybody just knows you don't do. And yet in the Shechemite culture, this was perfectly acceptable behavior. Apparently, the men of Shechem recognized Shechem's activity as perfectly normal and quite acceptable. It didn't bother them. So Hamor spoke with them, saying, "The soul of my son Shechem longs for your daughter. Please give her to him to be his wife. Make marriages with us. Give your daughters to us, and take our daughters for yourselves." So it's not merely the marriage of this one daughter. We're going to make one people out of these two people. So Hamor of Shechem obviously doesn't have any idea that what his son has done here is an outrageous thing. He just doesn't know. You shall dwell with us, the land shall be open to you, dwell and trade in it and get property in it. So normal open borders relationship will be one people. Shechem also said to her father, And to her brothers, let me find favor in your eyes, and whatever you say to me I will give. Ask me for as great a bride price and gift as you will, and I will give whatever you say to me. Only give me the young woman to be my wife. Okay. Now, obviously, he's got things out of order here, but we'll leave that alone for now. In verse uh, 15, verse 13, this story continues. I've got a fool with my thing here. So the sons of Jacob answered Shechem and his father Hamor deceitfully. And the Bible adds that, I think unnecessarily, everything that Jacob and his sons did tended to be deceitful. I'm not going to pretend that the sons of Jacob were wonderful people. As we go further into this story, we're going to see that a great deal of the point of this part of Genesis is to lay out the transgressions of a thoroughly broken family. God's intention is not to set up for us a long row of plaster saints that we should worship. Instead, he's setting up real people who fall far short of perfection. And even in their righteousness, they are unrighteous. So they answered deceitfully. And they said to them, "Oh, we cannot do this thing to give our sister to one who is uncircumcised, for that would be a disgrace to us. Only on this condition will we agree with you, that you will become as we are, by every male among you being circumcised. Then we will give our daughters to you, and we will take your daughters to ourselves, and we will dwell with you and become one people." Okay. Now they're lying. That's what deceit is. "But if you will not listen to us and be circumcised, then we will take our daughter and we will be gone." Well, their words pleased Hamor and Hamor's son Shechem. Okay, that's verse 18. And the young man did not delay to do the thing, because he delighted in Jacob's daughter. He was a bit Twitter-pated at this point. Considerably more than I suspect Dinah was. Now he was the most honored in all of his father's house. So Hamor and his son Shechem came to the gate of their city and spoke to the men of the city, saying, "These men are at peace with us. Let them dwell in the land and trade in it, for behold, the land is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters as wives, and let us give them our daughters. Only on this condition will the men agree with us to become one people, when every male among us is circumcised as they are circumcised. Will not their livestock, their property, and all their beasts be ours?" So there's plenty of deceit to go around here. You'll notice there in verse 23 that Hamor's intentions are not exactly pure. He says, when all this happens, we will just steal all their animals. Everything will be ours. Only let us agree with them, and they will dwell with us. And all who went out of the gate of his city listened to Hamor and his son Shechem, and every male was circumcised, all who went out of the gate of his city. Now that's a remarkable statement. It actually is. Verse 24, that the men of Shechem were so used to being powerful, and they were so used to their own debased culture that they actually believed that they had won over this neighboring tribe, if you will, by their own outrageous acts. That this was completely acceptable, and now we can all be friends. And they agreed to be circumcised. Now, on a baby, that's an instant of pain followed by a whole lot of cuddling and quick healing. Uh, on a grown man, circumcision is not exactly major surgery, but it's extraordinarily painful, and it takes a long time to heal up, especially without modern antibiotics and the rest of what we in the modern world take for granted. Uh, this would have been a debilitating uh, act. So every male in the city was circumcised, and on the third day, I mean, on the first day the circumcision took place. Second day went by. On the third day, while they were still in pain, the Hebrew there says while the pain burned, uh, they were still in pain. Two of the sons of Jacob, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, took their swords and came against the city while it felt secure, and killed all the men. And they killed Hamor and his son Shechem with the sword, and took Dinah out of Shechem's house and went away. Now, frankly, that's acceptable behavior in the ancient world. In our modern world, we think, well, they came upon them by deceit. They should have declared war. This was a surprise attack. This was not a good thing to do. But then nobody here is behaving well. And the sons of Jacob came upon the slain and plundered the city because they had defiled their sister. And they took their flocks and herds and their donkeys, whatever was in the city and in the field, all of their wealth, and all their little ones and their wives, and all that was in the houses, they captured and plundered. Then Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, "You have brought trouble on me by making me stink to the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites and Perizzites. My numbers are few. If they gather themselves against me and attack, I shall be destroyed, both I and my household." But the boys said, "Should he treat our sister like a prostitute?" Yeah, that's obviously a bad thing. But they've done a bad thing to take vengeance on a bad thing. Uh, and because of that, Jacob is now concerned that he's going to be driven out of the place. What's interesting is that uh, they took the city and they apparently stayed there for some time. The whole family eventually is going to move south, but there are people still in Shechem, and there is an intermarriage that has happened, and surely there are children born of those unions. Uh, it's hard to know exactly how this works out in history, but 500 years later, when Joshua comes into this land, he finds that the city of Shechem is made up of people who have a long tradition of being part of the family of Israel. Shechem is a city that was not conquered during the conquest. And in fact, Joshua chose Shechem. Actually, Moses before him told him that this was a place to do this. He came to Shechem and set up the antiphonal chorus of curses and blessings from Mount Gerizim and Mount Ebal. That's why Joshua built an altar on Mount Ebal. This was a part of the core of Israel's nation. This was an important part of their heritage now. So, uh, interesting. Shechem is treated like family. So let us go on. We don't know how long they stayed. It was for a while. Uh, it has to have been at least some time, but God eventually said to Jacob, "Arise, go up to Bethel and dwell there." Bethel is a little south of Shechem, about 15 kilometers south of Shechem. So this is not a huge deal. It will be still possible for uh, families to stick together. Anyways, uh, go to Bethel, make an altar there to the God who appeared to you when you fled from your brother Esau. So this would be the same spot in general. So Jacob said to his household and all who were with him, "Put away the foreign gods that are among you, and purify yourselves, and change your garments. Then let us arise and go up to Bethel, so that I may make there an altar to the God who answers me in the day of my distress, and has been with me wherever I have gone." So there again, we see uh, Jacob is a little schizophrenic in that uh, he's sometimes is doing his own thing in the most violent sort of way, and other times expressing this deep and pious relationship with God. Uh, exactly what is he really? It's hard to tell. Uh, so they gave to Jacob all the foreign gods they had, and all the rings that were in their ears. And Jacob hid them under the terebinth tree that was near Shechem. Okay, so all the foreign gods and the rings are the family wealth. Okay, they're all made of metals of some type. Gold, the most precious, silver, bronze. These metal uh, statuettes, that's the gods, and the rings would be a portable way for a family to carry their wealth with them. And any of this, the foreign gods, the rings, could be converted um, into cash whenever they needed it. In fact, it was cash. You'd set up a pair of scales to see how much your ring weighed, and that's how much food you could buy. Uh, and so they gave Jacob all of this. And as far as I know, they never went back to that. Uh, they had obviously gained a great deal of portable wealth in the destruction of the city of Shechem, but we never see Jacob or the boys coming back for this. They may have. As they journeyed, a terror from God fell upon the cities that were around them, so that they did not pursue the sons of Jacob. Okay, and Jacob came to Luz, that is Bethel, which is in the land of Canaan, he and all the people who were with him. And there he built an altar and called the place El Bethel, because there God had revealed himself to him when he had fled from his brother. And Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, died. She was buried under an oak below Bethel, and so he called its name Olon Bakuth. Okay, that means the oak tree where Deborah's tomb is, basically. And God appeared to Jacob again. It's interesting how important the locations of the tombs are. All of them are laid out right along the patriarchal highway. We're going to find the patriarchs, all of them, moving up and down this one particular route. In the north, it begins at the Dothan Valley, and we'll get there, heads on south to Shechem, then south to Bethel, south past Jerusalem to Bethlehem, out of Bethlehem further south to eventually Hebron, and ultimately Beersheba in the south. And that route is the watershed route in Israel. It's the high point of the central mountain range. And we expect that the major cities on this route are going to be right at or very close to this watershed route. Uh, and along that path, uh, the patriarchs built their altars and they also set up their tombs. So later on, we're going to see uh, 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 Rachel dying near Bethlehem, and the same thing will happen. The tomb will be there. So God appeared to Jacob again when he came from Paddan Aram and blessed him. And God said to him, "Your name is Jacob. No longer shall your name be called Jacob, but Israel shall be your name." Now, this also happened back in chapter 17 when not 17, but in 32, where Jacob wrestled with God. And that episode was a man, quite possibly an angel with great authority from God. This time, God appears, perhaps in a dream, and he says, "Your name is Jacob, but no longer shall it be Jacob, but Israel." And so he called his name Israel. This is a kind of a second naming, but perhaps merely a confirmation of what God has done before. Israel shall be your name. God wrestles. So God wrestled with Jacob. Jacob wrestled back with God. And probably by this point, Jacob is still limping on that bad hip. And God just said to him, so he called his name Israel. And God said, "I am God Almighty." This is the famous name El Shaddai, the Almighty One, God Almighty. Very similar to the Greek word Pantocrator that we see in the Greek Orthodox Church. This is the powerful name for God. I am God Almighty, be fruitful and multiply, repeating the command that was given to Adam and Eve. Jacob has already been plenty fruitful. He's got lots of boys. He says, "Be fruitful, multiply. A nation and a company of nations shall come from you, and kings shall come from your own body." So your descendants down through the line will be the kings of Israel. And then God went up from him in the place where he had spoken with him. And Jacob set up a pillar in the place where he had spoken to him, a pillar of stone. He poured out a drink offering and poured oil on it. So Jacob called the name of the place where God had spoken with him, Bethel, house of God. All right, so Bethel is obviously really important. I would expect that Bethel would be a memorable place. Later on in the Old Testament, Bethel becomes the southernmost city of the northern kingdom, which will be called Israel. The south will be called Judah, and the north will be called Israel. And the southernmost city with an altar in it will be Bethel. I say that because later on, when we get to we won't do it in this book, but there's a continuing argument over the location of the ancient city of Bethel, and the place that some famous scholars have pointed out is probably the wrong place, because there's no altar. We know what an altar to the golden calves should have looked like that Jeroboam put up in Israel. We have one in the ancient city of Dan. Uh, and the same kind of altar has never been found at the place uh, north of Jerusalem that scholars have pointed out as Bethel. So what to do with it? Well, we're not sure. It's probably the wrong place. We've suggested the right place. We can't dig there. So what do you do? So they journeyed on from Bethel. This is verse 16. Okay, I need to go on. We're going to go on down to Bethlehem. Then they journeyed from Bethel, and when they were still some distance from Ephrath, which is Bethlehem, Rachel went into labor, as she had hard labor. When her labor was at its hardest, the midwife said to her, "Do not fear, for you have another son." And as her soul was departing, for she was dying, she called his name Ben-Oni, but his father called him Benjamin. Benjamin means son of my right hand. Ben-Oni means son of my sorrow. Both names are appropriate, but the father has the right to give a name. So Rachel died, and she was buried on the way to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. So along the road to the south of Bethlehem, that would lead past Jerusalem on the western side, we should find the tomb of Rachel. And as a matter of fact, we do. I don't have a picture of Rachel's tomb here, but I do have a picture of the outskirts of Bethlehem. Bethlehem today is an Arab majority city. At one time, it was a Christian majority city. Very, very many Christians had settled in Bethlehem, mostly Roman Catholic and Eastern Orthodox, associated with the churches there. But the Muslims have insisted that their refugees had to have a marvelous place to stay, and so they took over Bethlehem using the money and authority of the United Nations. UNRWA, the United Nations Refugee Works Authority, was invented for the so-called refugees of the Arabs who lived in this territory up to the time of the War of Independence in 1948. Now, this is all fairly modern stuff, and the way you can tell that the Muslims have moved into a place is the mosques. So here, underneath the word Bethlehem, right at the first E in Bethlehem, you see a great big tall tower. That's the minaret of a mosque. There are about 50 mosques in Bethlehem. They are all, every one of them, taller than the bell tower of the Church of the Nativity, which is the ancient Christian site in Bethlehem. It is not a happy place to visit today. Quite a difficult place to visit, but we've been there. The tomb of Rachel remained a holy site for Israel throughout the Old Testament period and into the modern period. The modern Hebrew way of saying this is Ramat Rachel. And there's an Israeli kibbutz on the south side of Jerusalem overlooking the valley where Rachel's tomb is located, which has been named Ramat Rachel, in hopes that one day that can again be a part of Israel's territory. So Rachel died, and Israel journeyed on and pitched his tent below the tower of Edor, or Eder. That tower probably didn't look too terribly much different from the watchtower that you see here in Bethlehem. That belongs to the Israeli army. The Israelis keep watchtowers and bunkers and whatever else they need to keep the West Bank under some kind of control. That doesn't make for happy pictures, and it's not a pleasant thing. So the 12 sons are then going to be listed. We're going to hear about this. When Israel, but before we get to that, verse 22 pops up. Reuben is not a nice guy. Reuben is the firstborn of Leah, thus Jacob's firstborn. He is not the child of promise. That will be Judah, but I'm not sure we ever get that from Jacob. While Israel lived in that land, Reuben went and lay with Bilhah, his father's concubine. Bilhah is one of the servant girls I've forgotten if Bilhah went with Leah or with Rachel. Can't remember. But she would have been his mother's age. This was again. This is disgusting. Reuben went and lay with Bilhah, his father's concubine, and Israel heard of it. And the Bible just continues on as though there was nothing major happening here. Okay. Now the sons of Jacob were 12. Sons of Leah, Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. The sons of Rachel, Joseph, and Benjamin. Benjamin is the baby, the new baby coming along. The sons of Bilhah, Rachel's servant, that's who Bilhah is, Dan and Naphtali. And the sons of Zilpah, Leah's servant, Gad and Asher. These were the sons of Jacob, who were born to him in Paddan Aram. And Jacob came to his father, back in Hebron, came to his father at Mamre, or Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron. They have all these different names because these are the names given by different people groups at different times in history. The place was originally called Mamre. It was also called the village of Arba, Kiriath Arba, and the Hebrew way of saying that is simply Hebron. And today the city is still called Hebron. This is a place where Abraham and Isaac had both sojourned in that region. And there they were, and the days of Isaac were 180 years. And Isaac breathed his last, and he died and was gathered to his people, old and full of days, and his sons Esau and Jacob buried him. This is the last time we see Esau mentioned. They buried him at the cave there in Hebron. Hoy. I'm going to go quickly through this next little bit. We've got in chapter 36, we've got whole slop bucket full of genealogies. Let's see what we can do with the genealogies. Here's a success. This is Esau riding the donkey. Well, not really. This young man is riding his donkey in Petra, in southern Jordan. Petra was one of the main cities of the Edomites. So we could call this man in the cowboy hat Red, and he'd be really happy if we ever did that. Okay, so these are the generations of Esau, that is Edom. Esau took his wives from the Canaanites. All right, so already we know Esau wasn't trying to be a godly man. He wasn't trying to be a part of Israel. Ada, the daughter of Elon the Hittite. Oholibamah, the daughter of Anah, the daughter of Zibeon, the Hivite. So we've got two Hivites here. The Hivites are either Hurrians or Hittites. I tend toward calling them Hurrians. The Hurrians were an Indo-European people group who came from the northern part of what is today called Iran. So they were from far away. And Basemath, Ishmael's daughter, the sister of Nebaioth. So Ishmael, son of Abraham, had a daughter who was given to uh, Esau. And Oholibamah bore Jeush, Jalam, and Korah. These are the sons of Esau, born to him in the land of Canaan. Then Esau took his wives, his sons, his daughters, and all the members of his household, his livestock, all his beasts, all his property, and all he had acquired in the land of Canaan, and he went into a land away from his brother Jacob. So he journeyed from the Hebron area, where he'd probably stayed this whole time, and headed south and east, crossed the what is called the Arabah, the what would have at one time been the valley leading down to the Red Sea from what is called the Dead Sea. But once the Dead Sea died, the route from the Dead Sea to the Red Sea is uphill, so no water runs in that. And he crossed over the Arabah out into the wilderness, uh, called a variety of things, sometimes the wilderness of Zin, sometimes the wilderness of Paran. Uh, and out in that desert wilderness, he began building the nomadic civilization that would become Edom. And Edom and the others in the area, like Moab, are a part of the heritage of Israel for this way. So he went into a land far away, for their possessions were too great for them to dwell together. The land of their sojournings could not support them because of their livestock. So Esau settled in the hill country of Seir. And then the parenthesis, Esau is Edom. That was added by an editor later, just in case somebody had forgotten. So these are the generations of Esau, the father of the Edomites. Or literally, this is again one of those Toledot passages. Here is what became of Esau, who is the father of the Edomites in the hill country of Seir. These are the names of Esau's sons. Eliphaz, son of Adah, the wife of Esau. Reuel, the son of Basemath, the wife of Esau. The sons of Eliphaz were Teman, Omar, Zepho, Gatam, and Kenaz. Timnah was a concubine of Eliphaz, Esau's son. She bore Amalek and Eliphaz. These are the sons of Adah, Esau's wife. These are the sons of Reuel, Nahath, Zerah, Shema, and Mizah. These are the sons of Basemath, Esau's wife. These are the sons of Oholibamah, the daughter of Anah, the daughter of Zibeon, Esau's wife. She bore to Esau Jeush, Jalam, and Korah. Okay, that's a grocery list of names, and it's interesting to see the number of names so far in this list that turn out to be important later on in history. For example, Teman. We're going to find out that um, Job had a friend who was a Temanite. So it's all, everything is related here. Verse 15, now these are the chiefs of the sons of Esau. The sons of Eliphaz, the firstborn of Esau, the chiefs of Teman, Omar, Zepho, Kenaz, Korah, Gatam, and Amalek. We're going to run into Amalekites all through the rest of Old Testament history. These are the chiefs of Eliphaz in the land of Edom. These are the sons of Adah. These are the sons of Reuel, Esau's son, the chiefs of Nahath, Zerah, Shema, and Mizah. These are the chiefs of Reuel in the land of Edom. These are the sons of Basemath, Esau's wife. These are the sons of Oholibamah, Esau's wife, the chiefs of Jeush, Jalam, and Korah. These are the chiefs of Oholibamah, the daughter of Anah, Esau's wife. These are the sons of Esau, that is Edom, and these are their chiefs. A lot of it seems repetitive. A big part of that is done for reasons of making it possible to memorize easily. Let me show you another picture this is also from Petra. You see the red coloration of the limestone? A lot of times, limestone in this part of the world is usually kind of a whitish gray. It's a light color with just a bit of a golden hue to it, like we find in Jerusalem. This amphitheater was probably built during the Nabatean period. Nabateans were related to the Edomites, and they were also influenced by the Greeks. So they built these theaters. Petra is a very, very interesting place. It goes extremely way back. The Edomites built a settlement here as a safe place, very difficult to attack. And we find it still existing into the modern day. Uh, you may remember that one of the Indiana Jones movies had its setting here in Petra. Very interesting place. And the people who live there today are Bedouin. Um, it's an interesting little bit of history that Petra was originally considered the holy city of the Muslims. The oldest mosques that we can find have their prayer niche pointed toward Petra, not toward Mecca in Arabia. The change to Mecca doesn't come for hundreds of years later. But this is Petra. Okay. These are the sons of Seir the Horite, the inhabitants of the land, Lotan, Shobal, Zibeon, Anna, Dishan, Ezer, and Dishan. These are the chiefs of the Horites. Horites are also called Hurrians. So Hivites and Horites, probably the same people group, but some say no, not too likely. But I think they are. The sons of Lotan were Hori and Heman. Lotan's sister was Timnah. There's a city named Timnah uh, in this region, probably after this particular curl. These are the sons of Shobal, Alvan, Manahath, Ebal, Shepho, Onam. These are the sons of Zibeon. And Anah, he is the Anah who found the hot springs in the wilderness, as he pastured the donkeys of Zibeon his father. Okay, so the editor is adding something that he is just sure we'll be excited about. We don't have any idea what hot springs they're talking about. These are the children of Anah, Dishan and Oholibamah, the daughter of Anah. These are the sons of Dishan, Hemdan, Eshban, Ithran, and Keran. These are the sons of Ezer, Bilhan, Zavan, and Akan. These are the sons of Dishan, Uz, and Aran. These are the chiefs of the Horites, the chiefs Lotan, Shobal, Zibeon, Anna, Dishan, Ezer, and Dishan. These are the chiefs of the Horites, chief by chief, in the land of Seir. And these are the kings who reigned in the land of Edom before any king reigned over the Israelites. That is interesting because it's roughly 1,000 years before the Israelites had their first king. This is an ancient civilization, and the Bible is nothing if not very concerned about history. Part of the fun of doing biblical studies is that you're dealing with history. And the thing about history is that genuine history leaves artifacts behind. Here at Petra, we can find artifacts going back roughly 4,000 years. The archaeologists who have worked here are not searching for treasure. They're looking for the trivial details of the remains of the historic past. And what they find is what these kings of Edom have left behind, which isn't very much, but it gives us a clue. So we go on, and this continues all the way to the end. The names of these various kings and all that they did. This reads like ancient Near Eastern history, Matter of fact, very importantly, this reads like primary source history. History written by the participants, by eyewitnesses, by people who lived there at the time. Moses certainly received all of this information from those who had passed it down from generation to generation. Moses writes between 5 and 700 years after all of these events had taken place. And a tremendous amount of history had happened during those. This is over half a millennium between Jacob passing through here and Moses. What Moses is trying to do here is to pass on this absolutely priceless first person eyewitness primary source legally clear historical record. And we have it all here. All their names, we can actually track all of these things down. And it's worth doing in order to demonstrate to ourselves that the Bible is not merely the Word of God. It is the Word of God, and that's very important to us. But being the Word of God, it is true in every detail. And the record that the Bible gives us is the very finest sort of history. And this is not true merely in the succession from Esau, okay? This is true in every chapter and every verse. The place in history is secure, it is sound, it is demonstrable from evidence outside the Bible for those who have trouble believing the Bible. But when historians have gone into the ancient world looking for the proof that the Bible is just made up a bunch of fairy stories, what they find is this interlocking web of trivial detail. Names and places and objects and sequences of layers and interrelationship of people groups and place names. All of this points to the reality that the Bible is a book of history, and the Bible is also the book of God. Here God is telling us his own story as worked out in the people that he has chosen. And so here it is. It's pretty exciting stuff. Next week, we're going to go on. We'll end up getting to Egypt. The succession from Jacob is actually the story of Joseph. And it's going to take us a while to work our way through the Joseph story. He's a fascinating character. And we're going to see Joseph as not merely a really good kid who turns out to be a fine administrator in Egypt. Joseph is also a type of Christ. He looks forward to the sort of work that the Messiah will do. So Joseph is a very interesting character, even though he's not in the messianic line, and we'll talk about that next week. Let me see if I can shut the share down. Yes, there we go. And then let's see if I can get us all to unmute. Yes, I can do that. So that's been fun. Good to see everybody. Thank you all for coming. I know the last few minutes of that lecture, a whole bunch of names. Oh man, 10,000 names. Death by 1,000 trivial details. I know, but it's God's way of saying this is really history. This is really a part of all of our heritage. We need to pay attention not merely to the spiritual parts of the Bible, but to the names, the places, the details, because they're all real. And that's part of why I love the Old Testament. There's so much that's very, very real. just sitting there on the surface for us to dig up. Thanks for coming, everybody. Love you all. We'll see you again.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
bye-bye,
Bye, John.
everybody. Bye-bye.
Ciao a tutti.
Oscar, love you, man. And but let's see who all is here. I got everybody here. Oh yeah, yeah, everybody's here. Good to see everybody. Bye-bye. We'll see you next week. Same
Ciao.
time, same place. And then one
Bye-bye.
of these weeks we've got daylight savings time coming, so I'll let you know what happens. Bye-bye for now.